Hello and welcome. In this video we are going to be drawing the clock face. This will involve modifying the code we had in our previous lecture. So this is where we left off in the previous lecture. We created a function called drawClock. I'm going to actually modify this function. What I'm going to do is also create another function called drawFace, and we're going to reference that function from inside this drawClock function. So I'm going to modify this function here. I'll get rid of all this and just the other function I'm going to create is going to be a function called drawFace. So I'm just going to reference that function here. I've not created it yet. I'm going to create it very shortly. And for the inside the parentheses, I'm going to pass in the CTX and the radius. Okay. All right. So now let's create this function here called drawFace. So I have added the block of code for this new function called drawFace, and that's the function we are referencing from the drawClock function, which is a function that I have modified. So I'm just going to run through this block of code with you so that we'll know what's happening here. So inside the drawFace function, we've got two parameters, got the context and got the radius, and in between the curly braces, this is the opening curly braces and this is the closing curly braces, contains the code that will draw the face for the clock. So we've got a variable called grad. This is going to be for the gradient, and then we've got this code here is from line 14 to line 17. This block of code here is going to draw the actual white circle for the face. So here we've got on line 14, we've got the begin path. The begin path method basically begins a path or can be used to reset the current path. So this is where the actual path begins. And line 14 here, we're using the arc method to actually draw the circle, and these are the parameters that will enable that to happen. This is the math.py. I explained what that was in our previous lecture and also explained what the fill style does. So it just gives it the white face or the background. And I also explained what the context.fill method. So the context.fill method basically fills the current drawing path. On line 18 here, we're using this variable we created here on line 13 called grad. Basically, we are creating a radial gradient, which is 95% and 105% of the original clock radius. Line 19 to line 21, basically we're creating three color stops corresponding with the inner, the middle and the outer edge of the arc. Okay, so these colors here represents the inner, the middle and outer edge of the arc, which is from line 19 to line 21. Just to know that this color stop here, the color stop basically is used to create a 3D effect. Next, on line 22 here, I am defining the gradient as the stroke style of the drawing object. Line 23, I am defining the line width of the drawing object, which is here, which will be 10% of the radius. Line 24, we're using the stroke method to draw the circle. And we're using the block of code from line 25 to line 28 to draw the actual clock center. So it will draw a center for the clock. Anywhere you see the begin path method, basically means there's a path going on here. This is the beginning, and then it will end with the fill here. So this block of code here, 25 to 28, is used to draw the actual center for the clock. So that is basically it. So I'm just going to save this, and we go back to our HTML. So double click on the clock.html, and hopefully there you go. So this is exactly how I want it to be. So this is the actual center of the clock. So we now have a face for our clock. So in the next lecture, we'll create the function that will be used for the clock numbers. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.